So, Sean, I could have just stopped with your music because it's a perfect example of what transcends the spoken word is through instrumentation and music. And when it comes to truth and meaning, you just had to close your eyes, and it was right there in front of us. And it's beautiful. And that you connected us with Zambia, and you connected us with the larger world. And that is what truly is an issue today, that people want to be disconnected from others and the larger world. So thank you. Um, when we pick our music, um, Cece, Hope, Sharon, and Jeannie, and sometimes Anne, Rob, we looked for words that really are impactful. So with our opening, words, when we talked about "Wake Now My Senses," um, it truly was revealing to us of how we talk about listening to the earth, feeling that power of being one with others, that web of creation, and then the call to action, how this, by awakening our conscious, moves us to what is our ministry in the world. So those are powerful, powerful words. And I just appreciate their help with helping us define words. Now, I will let you know that our closing song um, is going to be one that you have not done before, I imagine. It's going to be in the blue hymnal, and it's a little bit more work for us. So it's going to be good. Just want to let you know, but um, it will be a little work. So today this weekend we're celebrating the life and work of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. And it's really in his legacy, as well as through many others, that we look at how we speak truth to power. And one of the things I reflected on last week is power in itself is not something we should look at as bad. We talked about people use lying to maintain power. That's bad. But we, as a collective community here, have power, and that's what we want to use that for the good. Um, we discovered last week that truth is hard to find these days, but it's been going back for a long time. And we talked about the Hebrew scripture of the story of Adam and Eve, and over the millennia they've been severely criticized for the simple desire of wanting to know the truth and having knowledge. Well, that's something that we've wanted to do from the start as a heretical community. We have questioned truths that were presented by the authorities, and when we found them to be wanton, to be inaccurate, or untruthful, we said so. Also, as I mentioned, the last person to be burned at the stake during the Inquisition was a Unitarian minister. His name was Miguel Cervantes. He was tried for disagreeing with the Catholic and Protestant view of the Trinity. He was convicted and killed, burned at the stake by the Calvinists in 1553. So I'm not planning to have that happen to me. I just want to let you know. But at any rate, this is our heritage, and it's our opportunity, and that's why we're here in this building today. That's why it's so important to us. But first of all, I want to let you know that in our spiritual tradition, as the meditation reading said, no one will tell you what to believe. Certainly not me. That's for you to decide. So in any sermon I give, what I want to convey is that we need to be responsible for taking the extra steps to assure that we are really walking in truth. That truth has to be decided by you. There are three aspects that I want to talk about today that help us to guide on our responsible search for truth and meaning. Using the scientific method, looking to natural law, and while we listen to others within our communal culture and morals, how we value our own experience. No one aspect is necessarily better than another, even though it might sound like it in what I say, but it's not, because all should be considered. The scientific method employs a thoughtful combination of direct experience and research through reason to parse out fact from fiction, truths from untruths, and what is likely from what is unlikely. We should be careful not to embrace concepts just because they feel good. Blaise Pascal, the French mathematician, physicist, and religious philosopher, said that, quote, people almost invariably arrive at their beliefs not on the basis of proof, but on the basis of what they find attractive, quote. So, give ideas time to sink in. Why are you drawn to a particular perspective? Maybe it's because it doesn't challenge you too much. Be willing to question yourself. But if you are intuitive, do listen when something seems to resonate, as it may be telling you it's an idea worth listening to. And many scientists will tell you that intuition led them to do certain research. The scientific approach uses the concept of a hypothesis. The word has been abused by those who try to discredit science-based facts. They say it's only a hypothesis, it's not a fact. But in fact, a hypothesis in science is something that has been proven to be true after numerous independent studies. Science helps us to discard what is not true, which gives credence to what is left as being factually correct. And science works well when many independent studies come up with the same conclusion. Now, some of you have participated in studies, and you know there's a difference between qualitative studies and quantitative studies. For example, if we do a study, and after 6 months, you want to find out what difference makes if you don't eat meat for 6 months. Now, if you did a qualitative study, you would ask the people at the end if they felt healthier after not eating meat for 6 months, and their answer counts. It's true how they are feeling. And attitudes are extremely important, as we know, in our well-being. However, a quantitative approach will ask about certain key functions of the human body. What was the initial cholesterol, weight, heart rate, etc.? How were they at the end? Was there any improvement, any decline? For example, did the iron level go down? Did extra exercise make a difference? These indicators are independent of the person's attitude. Both are important. They create a story that we can learn from. For example, if at the end of the 6 months, the person said, I feel great, but their cholesterol level has gone through the roof because they've been eating chocolate cake instead of meat. Well, that might be a serious problem if the doctor doesn't tell the person, we know you feel great, but you really should get this checked out. On the other hand, if their weight increased, but they said they had more energy, they slept better, they felt stronger, it might be a mistake to say that the weight gain was negative. So this is the complexity as we look at science. Now, science often refers to natural law when creating a hypothesis. This does not mean that natural law is perfect or the only and best tool for searching for truth. It's not perfect, but natural law has one critically important aspect, and that is natural law by nature does not and cannot lie. We can, but natural law can't. In fact, even a predator that uses deceit to catch prey is not lying. They're being true to who they are. Again, we don't have to believe things are true solely based on natural law. Religious, humanist, commercial, and cultural interpretations have a major impact on us in our search for truth. But natural law should always be our first default. And there you can test. For example, heaven and hell. How does science inform us about the natural levels of the Earth's core and the atmosphere? How do these facts align with certain religious beliefs that there's a physical heaven and hell? Muhammad went up from the rock with the angel Gabriel to visit the seven heavens and then returned to earth. Is that physically possible by natural law? After his resurrection, Jesus passed through doors like a ghost, but he also ate food with his disciples. Is that possible? Again, fact from fiction, truths from untruths, what is likely from what is unlikely. Take a controversial modern day topic, abortion. What do we learn from nature? We learn that natural abortions occur every day in humans and other mammals. The body is very adept at terminating a pregnancy for a variety of reasons. But as humans, when we add religious and moral and political considerations, some have decided that a woman cannot use her own intellectual or moral values to make her own decision. In other words, it's okay if abortion is due to a natural, non-thinking function of our body, but not if a woman uses her brain to make this decision. And this has been made more difficult in some states that have determined that even if the body has determined the fetus is not going to live, the woman may have to carry the baby until full term, at the risk of the health and life of the mother. Or the baby and her doctor could be criminally charged. In this instance, we, as a community, are placing religious and moral values above what is commonplace in nature, which does so without judgment. Again, it's not to say that we should place one aspect over the other. It just means we all need to take them into account. And natural law is a good place to start because, again, what won't it do? It won't lie. This leads us to our third aspect. Our responsible truth for meaning looks to science, looks to nature, looks to our community, but it also needs to look inward. We need to listen to ourselves, the voice inside that guides us and provides us moral direction. What is our intuition telling us? And so, yes, you should get the facts. You should get outside opinions. You should understand cultural norms, but you need to decide for yourself. Millions of people believed that the world was flat. Crystal, do we have that picture, or do you already put it up? Okay, there you go. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but you see where the earth is? It says, now this is awkward, okay? So, but millions of people believed that the earth was flat. But I can tell you that the sailors knew that the earth was not flat because they would have fallen off the edge of the earth way many nautical miles beforehand, okay? And so sometimes it is that small group that know the truth. And sometimes that small group is called crazy. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes it's right, okay? If any of you remember, when we hit the year 2000, there was a whole group that went to Oregon because they were ready to get transported up. Well, they believed that. Now, does science and nature tell them that was true? Probably not. But their own moral compass told them it was true. So I don't tell you not to believe something. I just tell you that we need to take all of those into account. Because, as one UU minister said, we have to acknowledge our belief system's ongoing subjectivity. And she said, because we are evolving, changing beings, we want to remain open to our own development. Just because something makes sense to us today doesn't mean it will always make sense. And so we must continue to remain self-aware. In summary, in your search for truth and meaning, these are our guides: scientific inquiry, natural law, cultural norms, And when I say that, look at our own cultural norms. How do our Unitarian Universalist principles shape our understanding of truth involving injustice, equity, interdependence, and global warming? How is that different from others? And then finally, listening to ourselves, making and owning our own decisions, and being okay with changing our mind based on new information or revelations. And there's one more aspect that I would like us to explore in another sermon, and that is the transcendent. As Sean showed us with his music, how does all of this connect us with a higher truth? The bigger picture, the universe, interconnectedness, God, nature, Jungian archetypes. How does the prophetic voice and mystics help us to reach important transcendent truths for living in love and justice? A wonderful example of this is the prophetic and mystical truth that was expressed by Martin Luther King Jr., a quote that he borrowed from Unitarian minister and abolitionist Theodore Parker from his sermon in 1853. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Theodore Parker's exact words were, quote, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I see, I'm sure it bends toward justice." That larger saying tells us a lot about his search for truth and meaning, and ours as Unitarian Universalists. Science can't prove it. His own eyes' experience couldn't see it. And nature couldn't conclude its truth. But in his transcendence, in his conscience, he looked at it. He looked at the universe. He looked farther than his eyes could see. And he looked farther than nature could tell him. And he said, "I am sure it bends toward justice." We hold transcendent truths like this one in our work to create a world in truth, love, and justice. Even if science can't prove it, even if cultural norms go against it, and sometimes even if our own experience of having been on the side of injustice belay it. We seek truth in the face of all of that. So in honor of Martin Luther King, I'm excited to see how we as individuals and as our community will grow in this journey of truth and meaning in our lives. Thank you.